Here we are indeed consumed with grief as we mourn the passing of an icon of our struggle. Yet we are also here to celebrate the extraordinary life of a hero of our struggle for freedom and democracy. In the many profound tributes that have been delivered over the past week by a number of people, both here and abroad, the overriding sentiment has been that his passing marks the end of an era. He belonged to an era of tireless struggle, of sacrifice and service, of honor and integrity.
Let's cross on over now to my colleague Samkele Maseko, of course, who is following this story for us. Samkele, certainly a final journey for Andrew Mlangeni, one with solemn promises, but some words there saying that it is the end of integrity and honor. Certainly very harsh words as well for the rest of the ANC as well there.
Yes, indeed, Arabile, you'd go back to the words of Malusi Kekana and the harsh words that he had for the African National Congress, saying that if it does not go back to its core values, it will eventually collapse. Those are the words of Malusi Kekana speaking there at the funeral of Ubaba Andrew Mlangeni, but also the words of integrity being raised by President Cyril Ramaphosa, saying that what happens now, since it's the end of a generation, an illustrious generation, if one may say, you also go back to the words of former President Thabo Mbeki, saying that the ANC needs to call a consultative conference to speak about integrity and the factionalism currently plaguing the governing party. So these are some of the issues that are being ventilated in the funeral of Ubaba Mlangeni. Everybody, including the likes of Minister Hlengiwe Mkhize, taking to the podium and speaking about the integrity that Ubaba Mlangeni espoused and the ethics that he stood for in that illustrious generation of the African National Congress. President Cyril Ramaphosa going to say that he was introduced to the humility and sometimes mischievousness of Ubaba Mlangeni whilst he was still the Secretary General of the ANC after the party was unbanned and after its first conference in South African soil after it was banned. So it speaks about how the ANC must go back to its core values. You'd remember also Ubaba Mlangeni at some point in time was the chairperson of the ANC's Integrity Commission. He grew frustrated with the ANC NEC not listening to this particular structure's views and what should happen amongst party members and leaders which were entangled in issues of corruption and malfeasance. You'd remember they also pleaded with former President Jacob Zuma to step down, and he refused.
Any more word perhaps then with regards to what happens from here on? I mean, even the president coming out with some very harsh words as well, Samkele. You'd attest then, of course, to the numbers as well that attended this funeral, considering, yes, fine, of course, that it is a Category A funeral, but surely under COVID regulations, the ANC as well as the country has basically foregone all those regulations during this funeral as well.
Interestingly, we had a conversation with ANC NEC member and Minister of Transport, Fikile Mbalula, on this particular issue of the ANC's delegation to receive the remains of Ubaba Mlangeni yesterday in Dube, led by their Treasurer General Paul Mashatile, that no social distancing was observed. Fikile Mbalula saying that it's not like they called a gathering to have everybody come there and celebrate Ubaba Mlangeni's life. It's just mourners who came together, and that it doesn't mean that the African National Congress isn't obeying the regulations that have been put in place by government for social distancing, saying that they apologize to South Africans if that was the perception that came out of those particular photographs that were being taken of ANC leaders surrounding the remains or the casket of Ubaba Mlangeni, led by their Treasurer General, with no social distancing whatsoever.
Yeah, very, very worrisome indeed when you get to that part, actually, Samkele. So it will be quite interesting to see from here then what the decisions are that are made indeed. Just very finally as well, then, are we getting a sense then as well from some of the people who have attended, actually, that indeed the final passing of Ubaba Mlangeni offers some sort of turning point for the ANC, hopefully?
Well, Arabile, that issue of whether it's a turning point within the governing party, one may say that you'd remember the funeral of struggle stalwart and former Rwanda trialist Ahmed Katrada and the eulogy that was delivered by the former deputy president of the ANC and former president of the country, Kgalema Motlanthe. Many people thought that was the turning curve, particularly when he read out that the former president should listen to the ANC stalwarts and gracefully step down as the former president, as the president of the Republic of South Africa. Many people said that would be the turning curve within the African National Congress. That proved not to be. A consultative conference was called by the ANC Stalwarts 101, which Ahmed Katrada, the likes of Andrew Mlangeni, were also part of the ANC, seemingly turning the first 3 days of its policy conference in 2017 to that issue of a consultative conference, which the Stalwarts 101 objected to. Now you've got similar calls by former President Mbeki of the African National Congress and of the country for the ANC to call a similar consultative conference to deliberate on the issues of corruption and gatekeeping and factionalism that is happening within the governing party. President Ramaphosa saying that if this truly marks the end of a glorious generation that was espousing ethics of integrity, what then happens now? Appealing on to young people to lead up and look up to the likes of people like the late Andrew Mlangeni in order to be the next generation of leaders that will take the baton forward for this country. But if you ask me if it's a turning curve for the African National Congress, only the members of the ANC and its leaders can tell South Africa and can actively change the fortunes and the integrity and the direction of their own organization.
Certainly the end of an era. Samkele, Maseko, thank you so much for following this story from for us there. We will, of course, continue to check in as well as the day progresses. The final resting place, the final journey, that is, then, of Ubaba Andrew Mlangeni, then ANC stalwart and certainly anti-apartheid activist as well. May he rest in peace.